Hello. Okay, one of my anticipated movies of the year, and that is MaXXXine, the third film in Ti West's slasher horror trilogy, which centers around a female character that desires to be this famous celebrity within the world of Hollywood. And each story, within each film, it's told within a sort of different subgenre of horror. X was more of a love letter to those kind of gritty, grimy, grindhouse horror movies of sort of the 70s. You've got Pearl, which was more of a psychological, almost kind of Alfred Hitchcock type of horror. And now you've got MaXXXine, which is set in 1980s Hollywood, where adult film star and aspiring actress Maxine Minx finally gets her big break. But as a mysterious killer stalks the starlets of Hollywood, a trail of blood threatens to reveal her sinister past. So when it comes to MaXXXine, I feel for me the real horror of this film, the story, is Hollywood itself and sort of the influence of Hollywood and what it's sort of done through different eras of film and how it sort of affects society. And sort of like kind of that darker, seedier sort of side of Hollywood is where the real horror of this story lies. For me, it was more of what Ti West is trying, sort of what it is that he's trying to explore and sort of tell when it comes to Hollywood and sort of the effects that it has on society and people, and that for me is where I feel like Ti West has really succeeded when it comes to these movies, and especially with MaXXXine. X was the more sort of straight up horror slasher out of the three of them, and I would say it was probably the most creepiest. What I admired about Pearl was it was more of a psychological horror of watching this character breaking down, and I really adored that about that movie. With this one, it leans more into the trashiness of sort of B-movie bargain kind of 80s VHS movies. Sort of kind of those really kind of trashy movies that you would only find in the bargain bin. And that's what this particular movie, when it comes to the kind of the horror element, the kind of horror slasher element, really leans into. And it does it well for the most part. There are some really gory, gruesome moments that are brief, but very effective due to how they're executed. There's this one moment with Mia Goth's character and this guy who tries to sort of trap her in this alleyway, and what happens in this particular scene is so fucking gruesome. Like, when this particular moment happens, I had to turn away from the screen instantly. Like, it was really gory, it felt real, but at the same time, it is this kind of very trashy sort of B-movie 80s, bargain bin VHS feel to it that I couldn't help but be compelled by, just be intrigued by. And I just love how Ti West captures that kind of 80s look of film, especially when it comes to VHS. Like, he does a great job at capturing that 80s vibe through sort of whatever it is, whatever cameras that it was that he used, to the cinematography, to the choice of music and the lighting. I felt like I was absorbed within this world, of 80s film, and I really, really enjoyed it. And to just go back with what I just said about, for the most part, it works. Ti West does a brilliant job at bringing this era of film to life. But when it comes to telling this story, and Mia Goth's kind of, her character's journey through this story, for me, it didn't quite work as well as it had within the previous two films. And a lot of that is sometimes when we get, there are moments in this movie that felt very on the nose. For example, certain characters' deaths and sort of how certain moments and scenes would play out. It's like Ti West is leaning so heavily into sort of that 80s kind of era of film and sort of what it is that he's trying to do and how to bring it to life, that at times it just feels very kind of on the nose. And there are moments where I would sort of laugh And it wouldn't really be in a positive way or a negative way, but it was more sort of like in confusion to what it was that Ti West was attempting to do or trying to do with this film in certain moments. You know, there are moments in which it's very silly, and it is, you know, it's very kind of like 80s B-movie sort of like, you know, violence and even humour. But it all just didn't feel quite coherent for me. Like, it was all kind of very uneven, and so that's the only way I can sort of describe this experience. It was a very uneven experience when it comes to telling this story of Maxine Minx. It was almost like a combination of X and Pearl sort of melded together, and as a result there were pieces of this story and this character's journey that just weren't quite clicking together, and that's how it felt. For me, the narrative just didn't quite flow in a way that kind of would sort of really wrap me up into this character's story and her journey, like what happened with Pearl and X. And so, yeah, the narrative just didn't really flow in a way that could really sort of get me wrapped up into this story. So, ultimately, you know, for me, this movie was a bit of a disappointment, but I enjoyed it. I was always locked in. And a lot of that is down to Mia Goth's performance. Once again, she is absolutely fantastic in this movie. She is bringing this character to life. She is fantastic. I bought into her character, and I was intrigued and I was compelled because of Mia Goth's performance, and that's what kept me locked in, as well as sort of how Ti West really brought this era of Hollywood and film to life. I was always locked in. I was never once sort of bored, but it was just how this story plays out. It just at times just felt like moments, and nothing kind of really connected to the next scene in a way that was seamless or coherent to me. And I understood what Ti West is trying to do, and I understood the story of Mia Goth and sort of where her character ends up, but it all just didn't quite work for me. And, you know, it does lack that kind of emotional depth and weight of Pearl, and it even lacked the horror and the creepiness of X. But this movie was trying to do something, you know, Ti West was trying to do something completely different with this movie in terms of its style and aesthetic and the type of horror that it's exploring, and he achieves it. You know, like just going back to what I just said, it almost feels like an amalgamation of X and Pearl, and as a result it ends up just feeling like moments of something happening within this character's journey. But even though I found this, you know, at first it was a bit of a disappointment, the more I have sat on this film, like I watched it late Friday night, and I'm sat here now on Sunday, finally getting around to doing my review for the channel, and I've sat on it and I've been thinking about this movie constantly since. It's stayed with me. And as I've been sort of dissecting the movie in my head and what it was that I was watching and experiencing, and the more that I found myself really kind of appreciating what it was that Ti West was trying to do. And, you know, this is definitely a film that I'm going to revisit. I would love to revisit again in the cinema, but I do feel like maybe that this is going to be one of those movies, the more I watch it, the more it's going to grow on me, and I'm hoping it will. And a lot of that is just down to the fact that, you know, the more I have thought about this film since watching it, I definitely want to go and see it again. I really want to go and watch this film again, and because I just admire what it is that Ti West has done with this story, with this trilogy. I absolutely adore the performances. Mia Goth is fantastic. Kevin Bacon is really, really good in this film as well. You know, the score is great, the cinematography, the lighting, just how they sort of pay homage to those kind of bargain bin VHS, you know, movies, that kind of trashiness of film during that era. How that's kind of brought to life is great, and I loved it. It's just the character element, that kind of character's journey for me, and just how that story sort of plays out within this, that, like I keep saying, just didn't quite work for me like it did with Pearl and X. It's almost as if it's become just like the story itself just was a little bit too bloated maybe for it to really kind of flow seamlessly like I wanted it to, and for me to be really sort of, like I said, emotionally wrapped up in it like I was with Pearl and X. But anyway, they are my thoughts on MaXXXine. I enjoyed it. I didn't hate this film. But unfortunately, I didn't love it either. But like I said, this potentially could be one of those movies that the more I sort of sit on it and sort of think about it and dissect it and just go back to this film, you know, over and over again, that I feel like it's got the potential to be one of those movies that will grow on me over time maybe. But after first watching, after first viewing, it's just how I felt. So yeah, they are my thoughts on MaXXXine, and I will be giving MaXXXine a 6 out of 10. So yeah, they are my thoughts on MaXXXine. A bit of a conflicting experience for me because there's so much I liked and adored and appreciated due to just what I liked that Ty West is trying to do with this story. But for me, when it comes to the third film within this trilogy, it just, like I said, just didn't quite work. But what do you guys think? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Do you agree or disagree with anything I've said? Then please let me know in the comments below and let's get a discussion going. And if you've made it this far into the video, then thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. And if you want to watch future movie reviews from just some random Welsh geek rambling on, then please hit the subscribe button. It will mean an awful lot to me. My next movie review will be for new releases coming next weekend, and that is for In a Violent Nature and Long Legs. Two films that I'm really looking forward to. I am also hoping to catch the 25th anniversary showing of The Mummy this week, and I'm hoping to bring you guys a retro review of that. I'm really looking forward to seeing it on the big screen because the first time I ever watched The Mummy, I've never seen it in the cinema, but I watched it on VHS in 1999 on rental, and I've got fond memories of watching that movie for the first time as a kid and just really, really liking it. So yeah, I'm looking forward to checking The Mummy out on the big screen for the first time. So yeah, thanks again for watching. I really do appreciate it. Remember, if you want to watch future movie reviews and just general movie talk from just some random geek in Wales, then please hit the subscribe button. I'm currently sat at just over 350 subscribers. I'm hoping to hit 500 by the end of the year. And so just a big thank you as well to everyone that subscribed since I've started this channel. It's been a bit of a bumpy, long ride to get to where I am now in terms of sort of the consistency of me sort of just creating content, but it's one that I absolutely love and enjoy. And so yeah, enough rambling from me. Thanks again for watching. I'll be catching you guys soon.